You're listening to the Your Career Story podcast. This is episode 74, my conversation with Claire Baker, how your period can be your superpower in your career. Welcome to Your Career Story podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jena Viviano, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Career Story podcast. I am super excited to have our guest on today. I have been a fan from afar, and my marketing manager has been a fan from afar. And so we are so excited to have Claire on our podcast today to talk all about our menstrual cycles and how they impact our work. So Claire, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Jena, what a joy to be here talking about periods and work and productivity and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I love it. So you have had a very interesting kind of career path. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about how do you become a period coach? I know ladies that are listening to this podcast, some of them are in corporate life, some of them are entrepreneurs. And so we always like to tell people's own career stories. So I'd love to hear yours a little bit.
Of course. I certainly didn't set out to become a period coach. It's been a very organic process, and there's been lots of different changes over the years. My background is actually in visual arts and in business. So I did an undergraduate in visual arts and design, and then my postgrad was in business. And I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I've had that entrepreneurial drive my entire life, and I'm just a really bad employee, if I'm honest. Like, I'm that person.
Honestly, I think that I was too.
I'm the employee who's always asking, if I work an extra 1 hour a week, here on every Thursday, can I take this day off here and this day? Just trying to work around my own energy, which is, it's quite cool to look back actually and recognize that I think I was clear from an early age that I just am not suited to the 9 to 5 Monday to Friday structure. And actually I do my best work when I can work on my own time and when I feel, most productive and creative and taking time for rest when I need it. But that was where I started off. So I started in art and business, and I knew that I wanted to do work that helped people. I've always known I wanted to do work that I feel like I'm in service to other people. And certainly in the realm of health and nutrition and wellness, that's been a passion of mine my entire life. And so I started studying. Studying integrative nutrition and health coaching with the idea that I would just sort of do it on the side outside of my full-time job. And
I actually went down that route for a very hot second. I was like, I think I want to do this too. And then it never panned out. I did career coaching instead, but I totally relate to the side hustle. I'm just going to do this on the side.
Yeah, it's just going to be this thing that I just do for friends and family and people who want some guidance and support. And I wonder if it's the same thing for you, Jena. Very quickly, it became something else entirely. And I realized, oh,
wait, this is something I could do full time.
Exactly. And something that I want to do full time, and that it's totally possible to do full time. I didn't realize that, I think, when I started out, that, this is totally possible. So then I started coaching and working with women, health, nutrition, personal development, life coaching, all of that fun stuff. And at the same time, in tandem to all of this happening, this career change that I was making, I had also decided to come off hormonal contraception. So I've been taking birth control for 10 years. And around the same time, sort of all happened within a few months of each other, I stopped taking the pill. And my cycle just vanished. So my period didn't come back. I had 12 full months from ceasing birth control to my period actually returning. And so while I was doing this health coaching work with women, I was also working on my own health because I was trying to figure out where my cycle had gone.
Yeah, where is it?
Exactly. Like what has happened? And I realized I didn't actually know that much about the female reproductive system. I didn't really know what I was waiting for to happen. So I just dove into like books and courses and lectures and just learning everything I could about the female hormonal rhythm and ovulation and menstruation and the different phases of the cycle. So that by the time my period did come back, I was just like guns blazing, diving into this cycle charting work and sharing it with clients, everything that I was learning. And I realized that all of these observations I was making about my own cycle and how my energy levels and focus and motivation, desires were changing from week to week of my menstrual cycle in line with my hormonal ebb and flow. My clients were experiencing similar things. And I realized that there was just no way I could be talking with clients about health and nutrition and career and creativity and relationships and personal development without including the lens of the menstrual cycle on top of that, as a part of that, as a framework. I realized that the 7-day meal plans and the 30-day yoga challenges, all of these things don't actually work for the way that the female body actually operates. And so, it just naturally became a part of a focus in my work, and I started talking about it more, sharing about it more. There was definitely a clear moment where I had to decide, like, am I going to be that coach that talks about periods?
Was that hard for you to decide? Because I feel like that probably, it was even, to be perfectly honest, when we were thinking about planning out some podcast episodes, I was like, do we want to go there? I was like, no, we have to go there. I follow her all the time. We have to go there because you're right. It feels like there's this unnecessary almost shame around that topic. And I'm just curious, was that a hard decision for you?
It was so hard. I can't tell you how much resistance I had around it. I'd been working privately with clients on this topic for a really long time. I'd even hosted a couple of workshops on it, but I was still adamant that it was like an element of my work. It wasn't the full focus. And I really didn't want to be known as that coach that just talks about periods all the time. And this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And at some point, I remember making that decision and going, okay, I'm going to claim this and I'm going to own it because I can't escape it. I believe in it. I want to do this work. It feels uncomfortable, but I have to take this leap. And I can't say how supported I have been by the work and by my community and by the people that I've been able to work with in that time since making that decision. It was so rewarding quite quickly, but gosh, it took me a bit to get there.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm so glad that you did because it's been super helpful for me in my life and how I'm even looking at how I work. So I would love if you could share some of the things that you talk about specifically on your Instagram. And I know you have a book that's just come out, I believe in the UK, but coming to the US soon, right? And you talk a lot about the seasons of your cycle. And that for me has been really transformative. So ladies, listen up, take some notes on this. But can you share just a little bit about what those seasons look like? First, and then perhaps we can interweave some bits about how your career and your work go into that.
Definitely. So it's really helpful to think about the 4 different phases of the hormonal cycle in alignment with the seasons of the year. So just like the 365 days of our year we move through the 4 different seasons. There's this like death and rebirth and ebb and flow of energy over the 12 months of the year. The female body goes through that same process, but on a monthly cycle, monthly-ish, depending on how long your menstrual cycle lasts for. So we can talk about the winter phase of your menstrual cycle being being menstruation. So when you have your period and bleeding and probably feeling more introspective, wanting to kind of hide out on your own, curl up in a blanket and chill, maybe not your highest energy levels for the month, that's like your winter phase, releasing the past month and pressing restart and starting again. Then we move into the spring phase of your menstrual cycle, which is pre-ovulation. And this is the phase that transitions you from menstruation up to ovulation. And again, like the spring of the year, it's about re-emerging, taking action. There's a real sense of energy and momentum and like a waxing energy here, which is great.
Which is what I'm in right now, and I feel
that. Where you are now?
Yes,
okay. So what day are you on?
I think I'm on 10 or no, sorry, like 8 or somewhere in there actually.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're definitely in your spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm day 16 today, so I'm a little bit further ahead. I'm just like mid to late summer. So yeah, I remember the spring. It wasn't too long ago. It's great. It's a lovely season. it takes us right up to ovulation, which is like the summer. And, we're in summer right now in the Northern Hemisphere, and I went to the park and there's people everywhere. People are socializing, networking, wanting to like spend time together. And that's how it can feel at ovulation as well. The body is fertile, we're primed to procreate. Naturally, we're more patient, we're more generous, confident, turned on. Like, it's very loving, quite sociable phase in the menstrual cycle. And then we move into the autumn, or the fall, as you would call it, moving into the fall phase of the menstrual cycle, which is the premenstruum. And this is the week that takes us from ovulation back down to menstruation. It's not a fertile phase, so we're infertile again. And this is the week that can be really tricky for some people.
For me, for sure.
For you, is it?
I mean, my fiance actually knows now. He's like, yes, you're in your luteal phase.
Amazing.
He calls it that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. I'm hearing this more and more, partners getting on board with.
He just knows what's going on.
Yeah. And it's to everyone's benefit. If you're in a relationship with somebody who has a menstrual cycle, it's to your benefit to understand how it works, right? And where your partner is at any moment in the cycle. So that's the fall. And then again, it's like slowing down, the lights of the world are dimming. You may want to spend more time alone, get some time out. It can definitely feel like more sensitive, but it's also quite a powerful, quite creative time. We can talk more about that in a moment too. And then that takes us down to menstruation again. We move back into our winter phase and release the past month and just continue to move through that cycle over and over again.
Yeah, I think that framework is just helpful. It's even helped me kind of understand and have grace with myself when different emotions are coming out, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but a lot of my listeners are. And I'm an Enneagram 3, so I'm very high achiever. I'm very high strung, high energy. And when I don't operate like that, I start to beat myself up. And I think this framework has actually helped me realize that no, I'm made a certain way. It is okay that these 2 weeks are going to be a little bit less energized than my other ones. And I think that rhythm keeps us as women, and just quite frankly, as working people, healthier. It forces us. And when we actually lean into it, it's better for ourselves, better for our bodies, and better, quite frankly, probably for our work. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. The awareness piece is life-changing in and of itself. Even if you don't change anything, which we'll definitely talk about some changes that you can make. But even just knowing, right, I'm on cycle day 8 today. So I'm definitely feeling a bit more energetic. That's interesting. That's cool. But then when I'm on cycle day 18 or cycle day 28, my energy is different. And so not giving ourselves a hard time for feeling that inconsistency, and actually recognizing that it's completely natural, it's completely normal. It's 100% okay to have these shifting energies and focus and motivation and mood across your menstrual cycle. That's totally normal. It's fine. There's no need to beat ourselves up about those changes.
Yeah. So when we're talking about work specifically, how do these different seasons affect our work, or how can we use this knowledge now to affect our work better?
Of course. What I love talking about is the superpowers and the vulnerabilities in the menstrual cycle.
Let's go there.
So, let's go there. So once we begin to chart, and by chart, I mean simply like a daily practice of just checking in and recognizing what day of your cycle you are on. And to be clear, that means that day 1 of your cycle is the first day of your period. So to figure out where you are today, you just need to go back to your last period, that first day of blood flow, that's day 1, and then just count forward from there. And then you can figure out where you are in the menstrual cycle today. And it's just a matter of checking in every day and checking in like how energy levels, how's your mental health, how's your emotional health going, how are you feeling, what's going on for you, and just making notes, whether it's in a period tracking app or a journal or a chart. Just, it doesn't really matter what you do, just that you pick something and go with it. And so when it comes to work, start to make some observations around your relationship with work, or your productivity levels, or your focus. How is your motivation? How is your mood? What tasks do you feel drawn to? Are they more creative tasks? Are they more analytical? When do you need to have more rest or actually take time away from work? Cognitive function, memory, all of these things are impacted by the hormonal fluctuations in the menstrual cycle. And you will begin to notice, and it will take a few cycles, but patterns will emerge that there will be moments in the cycle where you do feel more drawn to study and research and learn and absorb information. There'll be moments in the cycle where you're much more extroverted and happy to present like a presentation or do like an early breakfast networking meeting. And then there'll be other weeks where actually you're quite happy to just kind of potter about and get work done, but doing it on your own timeline and maybe popping your headphones on and just kind of going, into a creative cave and maybe not connecting with other people. And then there'll be weeks where actually you just need to take a bit of a break and take a step back and press pause on a few projects and let some of those ideas, circulate and feel into the vision of the project rather than always taking action. So you'll begin to notice there are definitely weeks that are more geared for doing and action and starting projects and moving things forward. But then we have to respect the creative process. There is, of course, it's necessary to know when to take a step back as well and see what emerges from that space too. And I think that's what the menstrual cycle has really, one of the things that it's really taught me is knowing when to put our foot on the gas and move things forward, but also knowing when to step back and letting things fall into place. That's been a huge one to me.
Do you feel like, and maybe this is again just me and my personality in general, do you ever feel guilty? Because I have a lot of high achievers that are listening to this podcast. You ever feel guilty when you're like, I have to take a step back to let that? It almost feels counterintuitive to our culture. Do you ever experience that? Or maybe that's just not your personality?
I used to. Okay. I have to say that I'm a Virgo. I'm a firstborn child. I am definitely a type A personality. I'm a mad perfectionist. This menstrual cycle awareness work has really helped me to soften those parts of my personality because I love them and I value them, and they've helped me get to where I am today in my career and my business. Sure. And I'm super, self-motivated. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do. I get things done. If I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. I'll do it very well. Yeah. But that comes with its consequences too, right? Right. There are definitely there is a shadow side to that, and guilt is one of feelings of guilt is definitely one of the shadow sides to having that high productivity personality. So this work has definitely helped me to soften into that and to be kinder to myself when actually I do just need to take a break, and the rewards are. Yeah, they're so evident, and I can see the richness in my work when I have been able to just maybe ask for help for something. Sure. Or take a pause, and then a better idea comes in than the one that I was working on. And it's so essential in the creative process to create that space. So I'm really grateful for that teaching. But yeah, I'm not perfect. I definitely still have God days where I just oh yeah, the guilt, the default of just wanting to get something right. I've been really navigating that recently with my book that's coming out, just trying to let go of the need for it to be perfect. Sure. And
which is beautiful, by the way. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, that was a real process for me of just recognizing that once something is printed and done and it's out in the world and you can't go back and change it. You just got to let it go. So I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
But I relate to that shadow side. A lot of you guys that are listening probably know that I'm taking a sabbatical actually this year. I'm taking it in August and September because I hit the shadow side very intensely, probably multiple times over the past year. And it was also during that time that I uncovered kind of the work that you do, and just really taking that step back from a spiritual perspective and realizing, hey, I can't keep going at this rate because it's not going to be healthy for me, for my business, or for my clients and customers, And so I love what you're saying, that it's kind of that awareness leads to something that we can actually act upon or not act upon, literally.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes actually not acting and not taking action is exactly what we need to do. I love that you're taking a 2-month sabbatical. Incredible. Yeah. Well done, you.
Thank you. I mean, it took a lot for me to actually get to it. And now I'm I can't wait. Actually, this episode is airing during my sabbatical because we're preparing in advance for that because I'm in my spring phase, which is why we're doing this right now.
Yes, exactly.
So along the lines of it, kind of is a perfect segue. What is your most productive season, or when are people most likely to be productive?
Sure. It's such a good question. It is different from person to person. And there are various, I guess, like flavors of productivity across the menstrual cycle. So the natural response would sort of be to lean firstly to spring. So where you are now, that phase of like getting things started and getting things moving. And there is this incredible energy of momentum of like coming out of the period cave and feeling that like resurgence of new life and like the lovely increase in estrogen. And it does lend itself to being productive and getting a lot done, getting things moving and projects started. So for somebody who maybe does struggle with that step in the creative process of just getting something off the ground, then this would be a really good place to start drawing attention and focusing on, because there is just a natural energy that you can catch the wave on it and get things moving. I am constantly surrounded by to-do lists, Post-it notes, calendars. Like I love to do my planning in my spring. Yeah.
I just showed my Post-it notes to her. Love it.
Getting those ideas down, planning out the upcoming cycle. Like that's really, what the spring is. It's about getting those foundations for a project in place. And certainly you can be really productive. On the other side of the cycle, I think that the fall phase is often overlooked when it comes to productivity. And we can sometimes write it off as not being a productive phase. But I disagree. I think that when we have the conditions that we need, like I said, maybe in your fall, you probably might prefer to work on your own timeline, or maybe like not be doing group work. Maybe it is much more about you kind of like working in your own little creative cave. But what I've noticed is that there is, again, like an energy not of getting things started this time, but actually getting things finished. So this phase is really geared towards wrapping things up, paying attention to details, editing, like finishing stuff off. And I hear often, and I feel this too, there is almost this like sense that your period is coming, menstruation is coming, you're moving towards it every day. So let's get things sorted. Like let's clear the box. Let's like do all the website editing that needs doing. Let's wrap up that project and get things done. So I find that phase really good for finishing projects. And then of course in the middle, we've got summer. Summer, it can kind of go both ways, I think. I think that summer can be really productive in the sense that it's high energy, it's a confident energy, it's definitely a like being seen energy. And if I was to film video content, for example, or if I was to give a presentation, I would definitely try to schedule that for my summer, because my like people prowess, my skills with articulation and group work are definitely at their highest levels. However, I get really distracted in my summer, and I hear this from women because I just want to like
do all the things.
And, like, yeah, totally, and like be on social media on my stories, just like chatting away and like chatting to my partner because we both work from home, and I want to like plan things with friends. Like it kind of goes both ways. Sometimes I feel like I have to be accountable to other people in that phase, and like group work is really good. Otherwise I get too social and too chatty, and I just get distracted and just want to have fun, and I'm like less inclined to want to sit down and actually do work. And then if we look again then to winter, when we're bleeding, again, it's easy to write that time off because maybe focus and energy isn't at its highest levels. But this is one of those moments that I spoke about just before, where we've got to appreciate creatively the moments for rest and to take pause and to get clarity on an idea, on a project, or on something that we're working on, and to just take a break from something and to get our priorities straight, to be really clear, like, is this the direction that we want to be taking something? So in terms of strategizing and maybe doing some planning and looking towards the next cycle and figuring out like exactly delegating tasks to your upcoming seasons and figuring out exactly what you're going to be doing and working on in different phases of the cycle. Menstruation is a really brilliant place to do that. And it's also the place where it's like we're recharging our batteries, plugging in, taking a break, and that fuels us up for the rest of the cycle to come. So I hope that answers your question. Each
it totally does.
Has its own flavor for productivity. And when they're all used together, it's just this like superpower, of menstruality that like comes together to supercharge our work. And it is, like I said, knowing about your superpowers and your vulnerabilities when you're charting, observing like what are your superpowers in terms of work in each phase of your cycle, but then also where are you more vulnerable? Like I just shared in my summer, I know that if I go on Instagram, I'm just going to get lost there for like an hour chatting to people. So I just know I have to be more boundaried if I really want to get some work done. Or I optimize that like chatty part of myself, and I do a presentation, or I host a women's circle, or I do something where I am actually working with people. And that, it changes the game.
So it's actually interesting you said that. It's making my brain start to think as an entrepreneur who's then taking this break and thinking we're going to be using the whole time to re-strategize on my personal business. Do you actually, like, at the end of your cycle, start to like plan out specific tasks for every other part of your cycle?
Exactly. Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. Does that feel overwhelming though?
No, I love it.
Okay.
I'm a planner. And I love that. And you know what? Maybe for some people it does. I love knowing that the thought of being on like this linear continuum forever actually makes me feel quite anxious. I love the fact that every month I know I'm going to have a day or two to just take stock of where I'm at in my business and where I'm at in my life, and look at the past cycle. What did I achieve? What worked in my business? What didn't? And then think about what's coming up. So like very practically look at my calendar and think, right, I've got that workshop there. I'm teaching that course here. I'm going to delegate that task for here because I know I'm going to be in my spring phase. I'm going to get that project moving here. And then I'm going to leave some time in my fall phase for some editing on that, and give myself a bit more space in that week rather than booking lots of appointments. So I do look ahead. And you know what? I mean, it's not about micromanaging our lives, but it is about making tweaks where we can to optimize these different superpowers in each phase of the cycle.
I love that. You've inspired me. And I think there's freedom there with it. It's not about micromanaging your schedule. It's about creating certain tweaks that are it's kind of like you're tweaking your resume, y'all. Certain tweaks that are going to help you move the needle a little bit closer to your destination of, just trying to be more in tune with and aware with your cycle and how that affects your work. So we're entrepreneurs. Let's talk about our corporate friends, or our friends that are in 9-to-5 jobs who are still in the 9-to-5 job. They didn't buck the system like we did. So let's say you're on day one and you're in the winter phase, and I've been there. I worked on Wall Street. I know that feeling of, especially in very male dominated industries. Let's say you have to have a big presentation. Like, how do you set yourself up for success if you know that you are not going to be wanting to do that? You're not in your summer phase. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, go gently. I think that's the number one thing I would say, is that it might mean that there is nothing you can change on those days. You're bleeding, you've got a huge work presentation to do, there's nothing you can do about it. Fine. Be so gentle with yourself. Again, like we spoke about before, this is about self-kindness and acceptance and awareness that we do shift and change. You're probably going to feel different giving that presentation than you might give it on day 14, possibly. So I think being really gentle, being aware. There's another piece here about recognizing the things that we do have control over. So maybe you work-wise, your schedule can't change. However, do you still need to get up at 6 a.m. and go to the gym before work? Maybe not. Can you sleep more? Can you give yourself more hours of sleep on those couple of days? What are you eating and fueling your body with? Is it really like high nutrition, nourishing food? And if you can't be bothered to cook, that's cool. Like, getting takeout that feels like it is nutritious and really like loving on your body, asking a partner or a friend or somebody else to cook for you, preparing in advance. I think one of the easiest things people can do in terms of cycle syncing on the whole is just filling your food and your freezer with fresh food throughout the cycle, so that by the time your period comes, you can just defrost a casserole or something from the freezer and you don't have to think about cooking. So high nutrition, getting that good food in your body, staying really hydrated, and getting enough sleep. They're the basics of self-care, but they really make a huge difference on those days where you can't change things. Think about your social life. Are you then scheduling in drinks after work, or did you have plans with your partner to go out to dinner? Can those be scrapped? There are things that we can do outside of work hours. Social media is a big one. Like, can you delete Instagram or Facebook for a couple of days? Do you need to be on social media or on screens outside of work time? Like, what is within your control? So we've got that gentle awareness piece, being really kind to ourselves, looking at what we can actually tweak outside of those working hours. And then the third thing I would say is, we have superpowers in every phase of our menstrual cycle. So sure, on day one, you might not be feeling your most like high-powered self.
Boom.
Exactly. Like you might not feel like Superwoman stepping out there on that stage, but you can do it and it will be brilliant. And tapping into that, like the power of the winter phase of menstruation, which is really about intuition and insight and that visioning, and like I said, getting really clear. Like there's a lot of clarity that can come through and a great deal of power. And so working with that energy, I've managed to teach so many workshops on day one of my cycle. They've just synced up that way. And I always remind myself as I'm going into a teaching space when I'm bleeding that I don't need to put on my like Superwoman cape that day and try to wow the crowd with like jazz hands or like anything fancy. Like I can actually just like speak really clearly from my gut and from my heart and deliver something really powerful that might be like less energy, but there's still like so much depth that can come through when we're bleeding. So I think it's also like tapping into the superpowers that we have when we're menstruating.
I love that. We actually just did a masterclass last week and I was on day one. And I remember I actually listened to you talk. And I think it was, I don't know if it was on Instagram or something, where you said that, you did your presentation, then you had nothing the rest of the day. So while I didn't have nothing the rest of the day, I created lots of margin in my day so that I wasn't doing a whole lot in between my meetings. And I wasn't getting mad at myself for not being in my inbox or not being on social media or not doing all these other things. And that did help. That did help make it like more manageable, even though, and we did great. So it was fine. Like you just said, like, it'll be fine.
It will be fine. Like there's no need to get anxious about it or worried or this isn't about trying to have the perfect cycle or syncing things perfectly all of the time. I think again, as like high achievers and perfectionists, it can be really easy to then try to like squeeze ourselves into another box.
Right. Which I think is a lot of people, I mean, myself included, would probably go into that. That would be the default. And a lot of women that are listening to this guarantee they're probably in a similar boat. So I love what you're saying there.
I say that because I know it, and I have also tried to do that. And then to recognize, the point of this isn't about trying to perfect something else or to do it right, inverted commas, all of the time. The most important piece of all of this is that awareness and that gentle awareness and just being able to be kind to yourself throughout each day of your cycle.
I love that. And so let's say if we are business owners or managers, even managers in corporate America, we know we have women on our team or people that are menstruating. How do we like adapt this potentially for our teams?
Yeah, of course. I work with a couple of different women and on a regular daily-ish basis. And we, ask each other what day of our cycle that we're on. One of my cousins works in a corporate environment and she has introduced cycle charting to all of her female colleagues. And so before meetings, they just like check in, like, how is everyone today? Is anyone menstruating? What day of your cycle, are you on? And it's just become a natural part of, at least in the female department, of conversation. So people know, like, if Lucy's menstruating today, can someone else go and like get the tea and the coffee and she just take a bit of a break? And so when someone else is ovulating, they're in super like high energy and want to be with people, maybe they can take over that specific task. And it is, it might sound strange and a bit weird, but actually people really get on board with this because it makes such an enormous difference. So I think, again, awareness is the first piece, introducing the concept of cycle charting and being aware of where you are in the cycle, knowing the different phases, and then just having conversations about it. And certainly, if you can, syncing tasks up according to where somebody is in their cycle. I ask all of my clients before sessions where they are in their menstrual cycle. Whenever I'm co-creating something with somebody else, we're always really aware of where each other are so that we're not only relating to ourselves in a particular way, but we're also relating to each other in a particular way. When I know, for example, that like you today, Jena, you're in your spring, I know that I can kind of meet you in the high energy place that I'm also in. But if you said to me that you were like on day one today or you were just about to bleed, then the tone of the conversation would be different and I would meet you in a different place too. I wouldn't try to expect to like be in the high energy summer phase. And I mean, does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I mean, I even think about that with why companies do personality typing systems, right? Why you have the Enneagram or MBTI or any of these other personality typing systems. They have that so that you can relate to other people better and you can understand where they're coming from. So not that I'm saying that this is a personality typing system, but it's a similar idea of
course.
How it could be really helpful. And so if you are a female manager listening to this, that may seem like a weird thing to bring up in the office, but I think what you said there is it's all relational. Like we come to work as whole people. I talk about this a lot. And what happens at home comes into the office. What happens in the office comes home. And so it is illogical for us to expect that we don't perhaps talk about this as well, and to kind of break down those barriers and potentially use it as a tool to better serve and improve the life of women in the workplace, which we know it could be a totally other conversation we have about elevating women in the workplace, which is why we have this podcast. So I love what you're saying there. Kind of like a last final question for you. What would you say that you wish women knew about their periods or wish women knew about their menstrual cycles?
Yeah, I wish that they knew that it could be a real gift in their lives. And I was just thinking as you were just speaking then, the conversation in the workplace doesn't just have to be around the nature of menstruation or somebody has their period and they need to have a break. I think that's what a lot of the like period policy conversation circulates around right now. And I appreciate that. But I want to take it to the next level where it's like, cool, but this is also a benefit. Like this is also a gift. This is a superpower. This is something that we can be optimizing. This isn't just something we have to be aware of because women have the vulnerability of menstruation. Actually, how can we use this and optimize these superpowers in work? And so that's something I would love women to know is that these different phases of the menstrual cycle just offer so much creativity and depth and opportunity to take action, opportunity to reflect and edit, like all of these shifting, changing qualities of your menstrual cycle, they truly are a gift. And I know it can sometimes feel like a burden, but with this understanding and awareness, you can certainly transform that.
I would definitely say for me, I was always the girl who hated her period, like hated it for lots of different reasons. I think in the past year, learning about the awareness of it, it's actually been, I don't want to say game, but it's more like I've like gamified it in my brain of being like, okay, I know this is why I'm like this right now. I know how to leverage this. And actually, as you said, lean into that superpower. And it's actually made the process of understanding my cycle much more enjoyable and understanding my body much more enjoyable. I think for a lot of women, I know for myself and a lot of you that have listened to me know that I had struggled in the past with an eating disorder. So there's a lot of disconnection from body. And I feel like this work has helped not only in my professional life, but personal life, obviously, as well, because I'm now more connected. And so I'm so with you there that it is a benefit and not some kind of burden. I love this. This is such a great conversation. I would love to direct people towards you. What is the best way to get in contact with you and share a little bit about your book that's releasing?
Oh, of course. So my website is clairebaker.com. That's CLAIREBAKER.com. And there you can learn more about the courses that I teach and my new book, which is called 50 Things You Need to Know About Periods. And I wanted to write a book, Jena, that was warm and playful and accessible, and that wasn't like clinical or overwhelming, something that people could pick up right away, like the conversation we've just had, like fun and valuable and easy to understand when it comes to the menstrual cycle. I think, there's a lot of great information out there, but a lot of it is quite dense and unnecessary, actually. Like cycle charting can be and is a really simple practice. So that's what I wanted the book to be, and I think I've achieved that. It will be out in September in the US, which is really exciting. And otherwise, I'm always hanging out, like I said, on Instagram. I'm at _ClaireBaker_, and I love sharing my daily cycle updates over there and catching up with everybody else is in their cycle and doing cycle check-ins. And that's awesome. My main hangouts.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, friends. Go check her out. Go order her book. It's awesome. And we are so grateful to have you here.
It's been such a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jenaviviano.com/resources. Super simple for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.